Hello. It's been a while, but I think it's important that I say hello. I've been through a lot, and so have you. I know that. I'm going to share with you something I think is quite profound. I've had to build my intuition, which is something I'm intentionally doing, and learn how to trust myself and just follow the steps I'm being guided to follow. A few years back, I was shown this idea of our nervous system being blocked. And I was shown that most people are living up here and that the flow of the nervous system, which is designed beautifully and intelligently to allow the energy flow through our being so that we exist in an electromagnetic world. I'm not a scientist, but I'm using language that's helped me. And we certainly know what emotions feel like. We're emotive humans. We have emotions in our experience as a guidance stick. We experience emotions as part of being human, which is an important aspect of being human. And it's multifaceted in its function. And so, what I've recognized is growing up, I was taught to suppress the emotions and live up here in the head in a very logical world of problem solving, strategizing, planning. And of course, when we overthink, we tend to underfeel. And I kind of blocked my heart, as many of us do. We block our hearts because it's very painful to operate from a heart that never got to learn how to feel and experience emotion without blocking them and locking them in and blocking off our nervous system and blocking the flow in our lives. As kids up to about the age of 7, we live in a natural feeling state. We know how to feel through our human experience. That's still very alive in us. And then we start to learn about the future and we start to recognize ourselves as in time and we start to think in time. We start to move out of presence. And so our breathing shifts from a very present state, a very sacred state of belly breathing into a very shallow sense of breath because we start to move into a different part of the mind. We move into survival mode and we change our breath from deep to shallow and we live in a very closed circuit system, stuck in the mind in survival. We think about how we're going to survive in the future. How do we plan and strategize to survive in the future? So how can we not be in a shallow breath state? How can we not be in a survival mode type of thinking? My point is we block our nervous system flow. So I had to learn that. And that was the beginning of my journey. And I was like, I want to know what it feels like to not be blocked. I started to learn about that through a series of curiosities I'm grateful for. I started to recognize that I wasn't taught how to feel or express. And I was taught to suppress, to block, to repress, to push down emotions and judge them as good or bad. So the good ones I could feel, permission to feel. The bad ones I had to block in and deny, disown, and distract myself from. And so I think you would maybe recognize this. It's very prolific. It's our culture, you know, be strong, turn that frown upside down, put a smile on that dial. It's, you're okay, get up, come on, everything's fine. So we kind of deny and we're judging the negative experience of an emotion. And so we stay constipated, excuse my French. I mean, that's a great way to explain what happens when we don't express our emotions and we get all blocked up and we actually stop trusting the flow to keep our heart open. We block that. We stop trusting our heart because it's very painful. That's where all the emotions get stuck. And we end up living in our heads. And of course, 95% of our thoughts have been found to be the same thoughts from the day before. So we live in this closed circuit system, separate from the field. Our heart is the connection to the field, to intelligence, wisdom, intuition, guidance. And we live up here in a closed circuit system, wondering why we keep experiencing the same thing and the same pain day in and day out. The definition of insanity is living in our head. And so that was my first step. Then after that, I recognized I had to go through a deep descendant journey. I had to shift my paradigm about this idea of good and evil, right and wrong, bad. You know, dark is not bad. It's the yin that balances out the yang. Dark is where we go before we're born. It is where we cocoon, rest, become inspired to move into birth, to move into creation. So it's that perfect balance. We have to get to this balance to be able to be operating with a completely open nervous system and to be free. And so I had to start to undo my programming around right and wrong. I was brought up in a very black and white religious kind of programming. And then I had to start to allow myself to go into my dark. I had to learn to be a really qualified deep diver. And I had a beautiful vivid dream at the end of several years of doing this, that I was now a qualified deep diver. It was a perfect metaphor. And I could dive at night, I could dive into the deep, and I could be feeling very confident in that process and feeling free to jump out of the water at the end. So this is why, we kind of get fooled into thinking we just have to ascend. We just have to reach for light. We can't go up until we go down and deal with the sludge in the pond first. We need to go down and look at our shadows. We need to go down there. Why don't we? You think you can bypass pulling out the elephant out of the room. You think you can bypass the parts that are yearning to be loved. And that's it in its essence, is we need to go and find those parts that have been neglected and love them up again. Love them. Show them the truth of who they are and love them. And they no longer become separate parts. They come back into the fold. They come back into the being of wholeness, and they are no longer live in the dark. And that's how we naturally move organically, I suppose, through the process of descending and then ascending. So we have to go down to go up. We have to break down to break through. And so I had to go through that process in my own life. I would say it took about 9 years of intentional shadow work. You could call this shadow work, inner child healing. And I had several months with a couple different practitioners who helped facilitate that process so that I could learn how to do it. And I learned how to do it for myself. And so now I do that. Every now and then there's still a part that I find that is now ready to be seen, validated, acknowledged, and loved. And I bring that part back into the whole. And I become freer and lighter every time. But essentially, it was a floodgate opening at first. If you haven't expressed for most of your life, because you've been taught not to, because you've been taught it's weak, quote unquote, then when you finally do start to open that gate and allow yourself to feel, it will be a big tsunami wave that you might have to be confronted with. And, it's interesting. We're so afraid of feeling our pain, but the truth is that fear that's holding you back from feeling your pain causes way more problems in the long run than actually just stepping forward with courage and feeling consciously, because there's no overt, clear training from any kind of wisdom keeper about how to express consciously. And it's about loving as if you were loving a child. It's very difficult not to love a child, no matter what they do. There's a sense of compassion we hold and forgiveness for children. We need to learn to do that for ourselves as adults. The way God, source, the field hold love for us is the way we need to learn to hold love for ourselves. And so this helps catalyze the process. Alchemize, transmute, there are many words to move through that integration journey, which can take years. As I said, a tsunami wave of unfelt emotions need to be felt. We need to feel to heal. As cliche as that rhyme might be, there's a reason for it. Emotions and feelings don't stick to a schedule, an agreement. They come out when they are ready. And it doesn't work with the external program we've been taught about Monday to Friday. We have to allow for that process. And that takes a lot of courage to break from control, from feeling that you can control your week. This is the work that most people will never have the courage to do. But if you really want to experience freedom, and that's that ability to fully have an open nervous system that's just as it's designed for flow, for receiving and letting go, flow through us. So we're part of the field now, part of love and light. Then you need to have the courage to do the work, to descend before you can ascend. And I had to learn that. And the next part I recognized was I was shown that when we stop turning the emotional experience we have from moment to moment where we're triggered into a story of why, when we stop putting a narrative to our emotional experience from moment to moment, we allow it to just be felt. It no longer gets trapped in the nervous system, in our being. It's our mental body, our narratives, our stories that we associate with the energy flow through us that is the reason we get stuck. We block it up again. So stop putting meaning to why you're a victim, to why you're in pain. At first, when you're doing inner child and shadow work, you need to do a little bit of rooting out the core wounds. So there is some narrative that already exists. That's why it got trapped. Okay, so I'm not talking about not putting meaning and identity and recognition to the first inner child wounded part that are still there. We need to do that. We need to go and find out, who are these parts in us? Who are these parts? And how can we find out what their role is in our system? We talk to them. And how do we give them what they've needed all along? We love them. Slowly they loosen their grip. They stop being separate and they start to trust us. And then they come into the whole of who we are. And they stop being little renegades that cause problems in our lives. We let them go. And that's what completion of feelings is, that fully expressing and experiencing those emotions that we trapped and blocked and denied for the first time as adults. And we are truly lighter. One thing I definitely noticed was how much lighter I was. It takes an enormous amount of energy to keep holding these trapped, repressed emotions inside our bodies. So when it gets tough, when you have a bad day, when an external stressor arises, it's hard to keep all those down. We're triggered because we are just holding them in. So yeah, when you start to finally allow these to be seen and felt and conscious in the light of your awareness, compassion and love, activating the parasympathetic, then we allow those emotions to finally be released. And ideally, we are energetic beings that receive different expression of emotions or energy throughout every day. This is part of the human experience. It's actually part of experiencing contrast. It's part of experiencing the beauty and the uniqueness of being a human. Not every being in existence has the experience of feeling emotions or the emotional body. And so it's an honor to have this experience of emotions. Why not enjoy it? It's magical. It's how we get to have that Hobbit adventure through emotions, including joy. So, enjoy it while you're a human. However, there is a better way than just holding them all in out of pain and fear that it's going to hurt, to see them, to validate, to acknowledge them, and just allow them to finally be released. And you'll get to this point, and I can attest to this, where you will begin to notice that once you've freed up all of the blocks in your nervous system, you start to feel energy shooting through your being. I don't have a better word for this. I know that around my 30s, I just came up with this inspiration that if we live in an electromagnetic universe, then surely I can harness that energy whenever I want it. And I started to practice. I made this practice up and it worked beautifully. And I imagined just drawing in all the energy of this electromagnetic universe through the top of my crown and down into my being. And I would feel this surge of bliss and connection. It was beautiful and it worked. And what I've found since is that I was beginning to move energy through my nervous system very consciously. We have so much power as conscious beings. And that I didn't get to fully experience that bliss until now because I had blocked the nervous system, as we all do, if we have feelings we haven't faced or wounded parts we haven't looked at. And so when I really cleared up the majority of that tsunami of unfelt feelings, when I was free of all that, when I no longer had narratives and stories to hold those things in to my being, and when I no longer operated from that paradigm of associating new stories and narratives to when I felt something, I would just be experiencing this emotion coming through my nervous system, the flow of my energetic being as a surge of energy. I don't know how to put this in better words, but I feel energy or emotions as surges of bliss through my being. It's like a shuddering, like my physical being shudders. I might be watching something sad, maybe on a movie. And rather than, it's interesting, I don't even need to tear up as much anymore. But I feel the emotion coming through my being. It often starts in my gut, actually. And I acknowledge immediately, oh, I have a surge of energy coming through my nervous system, through my energetic being right now. And I just surrender. I let go and I allow that emotion to flow. I don't put any story, any meaning, any narrative to any of it. I just allow that energy to flow through me and it goes straight through me. And I have to do this very consciously. And now I'm noticing I'm not the doer here anymore. I'm just self-awareness, experiencing energy now. It's no longer an emotion that has meaning or identity. I'm simply, I might see a homeless person and I feel that compassion and sadness, and I just feel it as a surge through my being. I'm no longer jumping in the puddles of pain with others, which is disempowering. That's sympathy, isn't it? I believe we are all empathic beings, but I believe that we have not been taught how to fully use our energy system, our energetic body. We have not been taught how to use our internal technology, our inner guidance system either. And all of this is connected to our inner guidance system, to intuition. And I want to be an exemplar for others to see that there is a better way of being. We don't have to walk this earth feeling disempowered by emotions and judging them as good or bad and then blocking them into our nervous system and blocking that flow of energy. We can experience life and all of the range of emotions: fear, anger, sadness, grief, frustration, joy, happiness, bliss, elation, ecstasy. We can feel the full range of energy experiences and frequencies without trapping them in our bodies, just feeling them as a surge through our energetic being. It's actually quite exciting and beautiful. And what I've noticed is, it's interesting, the more I see myself through new eyes, I see myself more as an energetic being. I see myself more as a field and connecting that field. That I see it as golden light often, quite yellow in color. I'm very visual, but I see myself, that yellow lightness, that energy, expanding beyond my being and connecting with the field that is to me quite yellow. Everyone has different perceptions, but I see through color and I see myself becoming part of the field. And I feel so much freer. I feel so much more supported. And I feel like this is truly an adventure now. This is fun. And I don't beat myself up anymore. I think this is a big part of it. To get to this point, I had to love myself. When I first started learning, it was 2013, about NLP. That was my kind of door into awakening. And I started to recognize this lack of love for myself and how hard I was on myself, super hard. And of course, this is what blocked entirely my nervous system. You can't love yourself. You can't love others. That's the hard truth. If you can't receive love from God, from the universe, from the field, and believe it's yours, believe your birthright, how can you receive love if you can't love yourself? And for us to be free, for us to have that freedom to move in the field of love, we need to be receptive to love. We need to be able to receive it from ourselves too, because we are part of it. How can we not be? And so I'm really embracing this saying, ancient rhythms call my name. It's something that I've been brought to my awareness. And it's another way, I think, of resonating or vibrating with that field that is all around us that we haven't attuned to yet until we clear our nervous system of its blockages. As I like to call these distortions in our field. Many people call it that. In metaphysical terms, it's a distortion in the field. All separation consciousness is distortion that blocks the flow of energy, of light through us. And you are so worthy of this freedom and lightness of being. I mean, if you're watching this video, I believe you're probably seeking more light or love in your life, more freedom and sovereignty. And so I want to tell you it is possible. I pride myself in not speaking about something I don't know in myself is true. It's very important to me to have that integrity. And I wanted to wait until now to put this in words. And I think I'm going to refine this ability to speak on this topic over time. And this is where I'm going to be helping my client as well to get to this place of absolute flow and trust in the field, because we are part of the field. We are one with the field. And life does become beautiful. I had a vision a few years back, and this is something I'm honing my intuition on. And this vision was that in the future, which is now in another dimension, we will be ascending together. And we need to be connected in the field. We need to have that sense of unity before we jump up together. And I saw like an atomic bomb style burst of energy in our near future, where all of us connected and then ascended. And the bliss that I felt the moment we came into that new dimensional awareness was undescribable, beautiful. Yellow is the best word again. And I know what it is to be in that unity consciousness. I remember. So my message for you is, if you feel that there's a better way of being in this world and you recognize the importance of feeling your emotions, then just know that it gets better. Have the courage to feel them all, to go deep dive into the dark with fearlessness, with loving heart, and with compassion, bringing those resources into the past where these wounded child aspects lived, and love them up. Give them permission to feel loved. And you will see that they will let go of their grip of fear and come back into wholeness, and you'll feel lighter. And it gets easier and easier and easier, but it takes great courage. And then you will finally be free to really feel a consistent level of joy in your life, a consistent level of yellow all around, always feeling that freedom to feel without fear. See ya.